As a Palestinian, I have come under attack for celebrating the end of the Assad regime. The problem is that I'm both Syrian and Palestinian. I'm actually half-half, and of course I would celebrate. This is one of the most important moments of my life. My mother is from Damascus. My father is a Palestinian refugee dispossessed in 1948. He lived and died in exile. I was born and raised in Damascus, never allowed to enter Palestine, not even for a visit. And since the Syrian revolution in 2011, I was also banned from entering Syria. Double exile. When I was 10 or 11 years old, the school bus would stop at Abbasid Square, Saht al-Abbasiyin, downtown Damascus, so we could all look at 2 or 3 men hanging by a rope, their bodies wrapped in a white cloth, also covering their faces. They would have been executed at dawn and left for us to look at them at around 6:30 a.m. The bus driver would say, "See kids, this is what happens if you don't do what you're told. إذا ما بتسمعوا الكلمة." It would make all of us sit still in the bus, trembling inside out, never uttering a word when told to be quiet. We all had to do what we were told. Everywhere, all the time. Our parents as well. Our neighbors, our relatives, everyone. I remember my heart always pounding with fear and being scared that someone might hear it and scorn me for it. As a kid, I feared thinking because I worried someone might find out about my thoughts and my family would get punished for me having them. But wasn't the Assad regime anti-Israel and pro-Palestine? If you ask me, I would say yes and no. I was given free education and healthcare as a Palestinian. I would say Syria was the best of 3 countries where many Palestinian refugees were received. Egypt being the worst, Lebanon in the middle, and Syria the best. But we had to be loyal to Assad's Ba'ath Party, just like every Syrian. The regime, however, never confronted Israel despite having lost the Golan Heights and allowed Israel to bomb Syria on and off, sometimes daily in the past years, never doing anything about it. In fact, the regime's security forces have been responsible for the death of many thousands of Palestinians over the years through direct attacks in both Lebanon and Syria in an attempt to suppress independent Palestinian resistance to Israel. Many hundreds more Palestinians have been killed in the course of the regime's suppression of the Syrian uprising. So many Palestinians are among the detainees in Syrian prisons, not because they committed a crime or did anything illegal. They are all prisoners of conscience, held arbitrarily for years or even decades in the dungeons. What difference is there between them and Palestinians held by Israel under administrative detention? Palestinians in Yarmouk refugee camp in Damascus were starved during the revolution. Some were thrown into holes in the ground and executed en masse in the infamous Tadamon massacre back in 2013. What difference is there between them and Palestinians in Gaza today? As I see the families reunite and detainees liberated, I know how they feel. I see some are in disbelief, so shocked to be free. It's a miracle. I know the fear they must have had inside. My father left Syria after life had become unbearable in the late 80s under Hafiz Assad, Bashar's father. He was heading the Arabic language department in the Faculty of Letters at the University of Damascus. One of the professors dared to deny entry to one student for having arrived more than 10 minutes late to the auditorium. There were 400 students present. The student happened to be the son of a military intelligence officer. He returned with 2 bodyguards, and the professor was subjected to physical and verbal abuse in front of the whole classroom. He arrived at my father's office bleeding, his glasses broken, his clothes torn. My father said, "If I can't protect the professors in my department, then there is nothing we can teach the students." My heart is pounding again. He left Syria for Yemen, double exile. Now, some passionate supporters of the Palestinian cause are reluctant to share in the joy of Syrians liberated from Assad's brutality because they imagine it's some kind of setback for Palestine on a geopolitical chessboard. But that way of looking at it dehumanizes Syrians In the same way, we say media coverage dehumanizes Palestinians. Syrians are not just a factor in a geopolitical chess game. Syria is not just a piece of land that happens to be sitting in a strategic spot on the map. The very values that make you support Palestinians should apply also to Syrians. They are human beings who deserve to breathe after enduring so much suffering from one of the most brutal regimes ever known. Its overthrow does not mean tomorrow will be perfect in Syria. It does not mean this change is good for Palestine. It may not be in the short run. You can still share the joy while not cheering for the new leaders of Syria. Syrians have paid with 13 years of blood and tears to earn the right and the freedom to choose their own path as a people, just as Palestinians continue to do. They may teach us something we don't expect. As for me, I'm overwhelmed with joy. I can now go back to Syria. At least one of my 2 homelands is accessible.